Pause for a moment. Do not rush into this day yet. Before you look at your phone, before you remember yesterday, before the world begins asking things from you, listen carefully. This message is not here to motivate you. It is here to remind you. You are not waking up into chance. You are not stepping into uncertainty. You are not subject to moods, timing, or luck. You are stepping into a day that is already responding to you. Right now, in this quiet moment, something is being decided, not outside of you, within you. And what you assume in this state, what you accept as true before evidence appears, will quietly shape every interaction, every opportunity, and every outcome today. So listen slowly. Listen without resistance, and allow this knowing to settle. Everything is already moving in your favor. Most people begin their day trying to do something to make life work. They plan, push, affirm loudly, and wait anxiously for signs that things are changing. But the truth is simpler, quieter, and far more powerful. Nothing changes because you try harder. Everything changes when you decide who you are being. Assumption is not a technique you use for a few minutes in the morning. It is not repeating words with tension or forcing belief. Assumption is identity. It is the silent position you occupy within yourself. The role you accept as yours. Right now, whether you realize it or not, you are already assuming something. You are assuming how the day will treat you. You are assuming how people will respond. You are assuming what is possible and what is not. And life, without question, follows that assumption. The world does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are convinced is already true. When you assume you are the one who struggles, life provides situations that confirm struggle. When you assume you are the one who waits, life gives you delay. But when you quietly assume that things work in your favor, reality reorganizes itself to support that identity. Notice that this has nothing to do with effort. Effort implies resistance. Effort suggests you are trying to move against something. Identity moves without force. You do not effort your name. You do not effort your age. You do not effort the fact that you exist. In the same way, when you assume a new state of being, it does not feel strained, it feels settled. This is why forceful affirmations often fail. They are spoken from the identity of someone who does not yet have. But assumption is the voice of someone who already is. So today, instead of asking, what should I do to make things go right? Ask something far more powerful. Who would I be if things were already going right? That question shifts everything. Would you rush? Would you worry? Would you keep checking for proof? No. You would move calmly. You would expect cooperation. You would interpret delays as rearrangements, not failures. That is assumption. It is a gentle inner knowing that does not need evidence to exist. Evidence comes after, never before. The moment you assume a new identity, the outer world begins the process of catching up. People change their tone. Situations soften. Opportunities appear naturally, often through ordinary means, and the mind may protest at first. It may say, "But nothing has changed yet." Let it speak. Assumption does not argue. It does not defend itself. It simply remains, and what remains long enough becomes fact. So today, do not perform belief. Do not strain to feel excited. Do not monitor your thoughts all day. Simply occupy the state of someone for whom things work out. Walk as that person, decide as that person, respond as that person, because once identity is chosen, effort becomes unnecessary, and reality has no choice but to follow. Every morning before a single event unfolds, a decision has already been made, not by the world, not by circumstances, but by you, inwardly, often unconsciously. This decision is not spoken aloud. It is not written down. It is the quiet conclusion you hold about how the day will go. And the day listens. Life does not begin when you step outside your door. It begins the moment you accept an inner position. That position becomes the lens through which every moment organizes itself. If you wake up expecting resistance, the world supplies friction. If you wake up bracing for disappointment, situations echo that posture. But if you rise with a settled assumption that things will unfold smoothly, the day reflects that expectation with remarkable accuracy. This is not coincidence. It is alignment. The outer world is not independent. It is responsive. It arranges itself around your inner decision like a mirror, adjusts to a face. This is why two people can live the same day and experience entirely different realities. One meets obstacles everywhere. The other meets cooperation at every turn. The difference is not luck. It is the inner verdict already reached. Most people believe the day decides their mood. In truth, the mood decides the day. When you decide internally, today works for me, you are not commanding events one by one. You are selecting a state, and the state handles the details. From that state, you interpret delays differently. A pause is not rejection, it is timing. A challenge is not opposition, it is adjustment. And because your inner stance remains calm, the world softens. Notice how often frustration arises, not from what happens, but from what we assumed should happen. When assumption and reality appear misaligned, tension follows. But when assumption is steady and patient, reality moves to catch up. This is why inner decision must come before action. Action taken without inner alignment feels heavy. Action taken from certainty feels effortless. You may still work. You may still plan, but the emotional weight is gone. You are no longer asking, Will this work? You are moving as someone who already knows it will, and the world responds accordingly. This inner decision does not need repetition throughout the day. It needs loyalty. Once you decide, you remain faithful to that decision, even when appearances tempt you to revise it. You do not withdraw your assumption because of a single moment. You do not panic because of a temporary contradiction. You understand that the mirror sometimes lags. When something unexpected appears, you say inwardly, "This too is adjusting," and it does. The greatest power of inner decision is that it removes urgency. You stop chasing outcomes. You stop demanding proof. You know the direction has already been set. By evening, you may notice subtle confirmations. A conversation that went smoother than expected. A solution that appeared naturally. A sense of relief that arrived without explanation. These are not surprises, they are reflections. So tomorrow morning, before the day begins again, remember this. Do not ask the day what it holds. Decide what it reflects. Because once the inner decision is made, the outer world has no choice but to agree. Most people delay their results without realizing it, not because they doubt, but because they keep checking. They look for signs. They scan conversations for confirmation. They measure progress by what they can see and hear. And every time they check, they quietly say, "It's not here yet." Expectation and checking cannot exist together. One assumes fulfillment. The other assumes absence. The moment you check reality to see if something is working, you step out of the state that makes it work. Reality does not move in response to anxiety. It moves in response to assumption. Expectation is not excitement. It is not emotional intensity. It is a calm, settled knowing that does not need evidence to remain intact. Think of how you expect the sun to rise. You do not look for proof all night. You do not wonder if it will happen this time. You simply know. That is the quality of expectation that shapes outcomes. When you expect something as natural, reality has no resistance to it. But when you monitor it, question it, or wait tensely, you introduce friction. This is why many people feel close to change, but never quite cross the threshold. They keep opening the door to check if it's unlocked. Expectation waits without tension. Checking waits with doubt. The inner difference is subtle, but the outer effect is dramatic. When you expect, you move differently. You speak differently. You pause different. You are no longer asking the world to confirm your state. Your state confirms the world. This does not mean ignoring life. It means outgrowing its authority. You still observe events, but you do not let them redefine you. You still receive information, but you do not accept it as final. When something appears unchanged, you do not rush to reinterpret your assumption. You remain still. Stillness is power. The one who expects does not interfere. They allow, and allowance accelerates manifestation more than effort ever could. Notice how quickly things unfold when you stop interfering mentally. Solutions arise without force. People reach out unexpectedly. Paths open where none were visible before. This is not magic. This is alignment. Reality is always reorganizing itself to match the dominant inner state. When that state is calm expectation, movement becomes smooth and natural. Checking reality is a habit, and like all habits, it can be released. The moment you feel the urge to look for proof, pause. Return to the assumption that the outcome is already decided. Say inwardly, "This is handled," not as a command, as a conclusion. Expectation does not argue with time. It trusts the process because it knows the end. You do not dig up a seed to see if it is growing. You plant it, water it, and live your life. In the same way, once the assumption is placed, your task is finished. Live the day. Let reality catch up. The less you check, the faster it moves. The less you ask, the sooner it answers. And soon expectation becomes your default state, quiet, grounded, and undeniably effective. When that happens, reality no longer feels unpredictable. It feels responsive, because it always was. One of the greatest misunderstandings people carry is believing that what they see now is the truth. They treat appearances as conclusions, not realizing they are only snapshots in motion. What you see today is not the end. It is a transition. Appearances are the result of previous inner states. They are echoes, not commands. Yet most people hand them authority and then wonder why change feels slow. The moment you accept an appearance as final, you lock yourself into it. The moment you recognize it as temporary, it begins to dissolve. Reality is not static. It is always rearranging itself to match the dominant inner state. A state is not a thought. It is not a feeling that comes and goes. A state is a position of being, a mental residence you occupy consistently. And once a state is occupied, life must express it. This is why reacting emotionally to appearances is so costly. Reaction pulls you back into an old state. Observation without agreement allows the state to shift. When something shows up that contradicts your assumption, your response matters more than the event itself. Do you collapse inwardly? Do you question your decision? Do you mentally argue with what you chose to be true? Or do you remain still? Stillness is not passivity. It is confidence. The person who understands states does not panic when appearances delay. They know the delay belongs to the echo, not the source. They say inwardly, "This is catching up." And because they do not withdraw their assumption, the appearance has no support to remain. Most struggles are prolonged not by circumstances, but by emotional agreement with them. The moment you stop feeding a condition with meaning, it weakens. Appearances demand reaction because they want permanence, but they cannot survive without your consent. States, on the other hand, do not beg. They simply express. Once you choose a state, you do not need to protect it. You only need to remain in it. This is why inner discipline matters more than outer control. You may see something you do not like today, a delay, a silence, an unexpected turn. Do not label it as failure. Label it as movement. The state you are occupying is the only authority. If the outer world appears behind schedule, let it be behind. It will catch up. Time bends to assumption, not urgency. This understanding removes fear. You stop reacting to symptoms and start trusting structure. You stop interpreting appearances and start holding position. And when you hold position long enough, appearances must shift. They have no other function. The world cannot contradict a state that is consistently occupied. It can only delay, and delay is temporary. So today, treat appearances lightly. Observe them, but do not internalize them. Let them pass through awareness without redefining who you are. You are not the condition. You are the state that produced it. And states, once chosen, are final. Everything else is adjusting. Most people believe power feels intense. They associate it with emotion, urgency, or force. But true power is quiet. It does not rush. It does not argue. It does not need to prove itself. Calm knowing is the state where nothing needs to be added and nothing needs to be removed. It is the inner posture of someone who already understands the outcome is decided. This is why panic delays results and urgency weakens. Influence. When you rush, you imply uncertainty. When you force, you admit doubt. Calm knowing implies completion. The moment you internally settle the matter, the outer world begins adjusting. Not instantly, not dramatically, but inevitably. Calm knowing does not mean you feel positive all the time. It means you remain unmoved even when emotions rise and fall. You allow feelings to pass without letting them redefine your assumption. This is mastery. Many people think they must maintain perfect thoughts or constant focus. In reality, the state does the work for you. Once you occupy calm certainty, the mind can wander without consequence. The body can tire without resistance. The world can appear chaotic without authority. The state remains intact. This is why over-efforting never works. Effort implies distance from fulfillment. Calm knowing assumes arrival. When you know something is done, you stop discussing it internally. You stop rehearsing conversations. You stop imagining obstacles. You live. Life responds quickly to those who stop interfering. Notice how often the best outcomes in your past arrived when you were least obsessed with them. That was calm knowing in action. You were aligned without trying. Calm knowing allows timing to handle itself. You no longer pressure the process. You no longer measure progress. You trust movement without monitoring it. And trust is not blind. It is informed by understanding. You understand that the inner world is cause and the outer world is effect. You understand that once the cause is set, the effect must follow. There is nothing more to do. This state also changes how you interact with others. You stop seeking validation. You stop chasing responses. You stop explaining yourself. Your energy becomes grounded. People feel that they respond with ease, respect, and cooperation, not because you demand it, but because calm authority invites alignment. Calm knowing also dissolves fear. Fear only exists when the outcome feels uncertain. When certainty is present, fear has no reference point. Even when challenges arise, you remain stable. You do not interpret obstacles as signs. You interpret them as movement. Because movement sometimes looks messy before it looks ordered. Calm knowing is not passive. It is decisive. It says inwardly, "This is settled," and then releases the need to revisit the decision. And when you release, reality accelerates. So today, do not try to feel powerful. Do not attempt to control outcomes. Settle inwardly. Know quiet. Let this knowing walk ahead of you into every moment. Because when the inner world is calm and certain, the outer world has no choice but to follow. Now carry this state with you. Do not force it. Do not protect it. Just be it. Let this calm certainty walk ahead of you into every conversation. Let it enter every room before you do. Let it speak through your silence and your choices. You do not need to repeat these words all day. You do not need to convince anyone. The decision has already been made. And because it has been made inwardly, life has no option but to follow. When this day ends, you will look back and notice something subtle but undeniable. Things aligned, tensions dissolved, paths opened, not because you tried, but because you assumed correctly. Return to this state tomorrow, and the next day, and soon this way of being will no longer feel intentional. It will feel normal. Everything is going your way, and it always begins within. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing stillness over noise. Thank you for beginning your day from the inside. If this message resonated with you, return to it each morning and let it deepen. And remember, the moment you choose differently within, the world must respond. Have a powerful day.